You wanna do it? Welcome to the Tuesday, June 25th, 2019 Town Board meeting. Start off with some announcements. Tomorrow, Summer Bash, last day of school. The Summer Fest event will be on tomorrow from 11 to 1:30 on the Town Hall field. There will be pizza from Pizza Station, a food truck from Road Grub, and Nick's ice cream truck. Chappaqua Summer Concerts. Actually, the Summer Concert Series, Chamber of Commerce. 7:10, Tramps Like Us, Bruce Springsteen Tribute Band. 7:17, Rebecca Haviland and Whiskey Heart, American Country Band. 7:24, Arena Rock Tribute. 7:31, FDR Drive, that's Top 40 and Classic Hits. August 7th, the Hawks, Rock and Roll, Rhythm and Blues, Motown Country, Southern Rock. And August 14th, Chappaqua Orchestra. Okay, that's it for that. Supervisory report. So after 35 years on the Newcastle Police Force, including the last 10 as Chief of Police, I'm sorry to report that Chief Charles Ferry is retiring effective June 28, 2019. Of course, because he'll have time to enjoy his family and not be on constant 24-hour call, Chief Ferry may not share my disappointment. Chief Ferry has served the town of Newcastle with professionalism, integrity, and honor. Under Chief Ferry's leadership, we have assembled a diverse police force of outstanding professionals. The women and men who serve under Chief Ferry have responded to the full spectrum of situations, keeping all of Newcastle safe and secure. On a personal level, I've really enjoyed working with the Chief over the last 5.5 years. We've collaborated on a number of public safety initiatives, including our nationally recognized Hands Off the Phone and On the Wheel initiative. Those efforts, including distracted driving diversion course, will be a part of the Chief's legacy. Chief Ferry leaves our police department in great shape for his successor, Lieutenant James Carroll, who will be surrounded by a great team. On behalf of the residents of Newcastle, I thank Chief Ferry for his service and wish him the very best. Okay, oh please, thank you. Chief James Carroll. It's on the agenda today, right? Chief Carroll, Lieutenant Carroll, has been in Newcastle for over 25 years. He started as a police officer in 1993. He was a field training officer for 5 years, sergeant from 2004 to 2016, and lieutenant since 2016. He has more than 15 years of police supervisory experience. He has been and will continue to be an asset to the town. We wish Chief Carroll great success in his tenure as Chief of Police. Congratulations. Okay, that's pretty much all I'll go over in my supervisory report. And we installed the pedestrian beacon out there. We have 2 more coming, and I think that's it for now. Okay.
I'm gonna ask.
Okay.
Wow.
So on to our agenda. We have a
Executive session down.
We have a continuation of our public hearings. The small cell. This is a great one. This is one of my favorites.
Who doesn't want to talk about this at 9:20?
And it's great because we just keep on. This keeps on going.
She is ready.
Okay, so this is a continuation of the public hearing, the small cell wireless telecommunication facilities, and we have a motion to reopen the public hearing.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Drew?
So, I think the last time you guys really talked about this was May 21st when you had the joint meeting with the planning board. It's been on the agenda since then, but no one's really talked about it. So, we can either go over, I put together a memo talking about the exact changes I made since that May 21st meeting, trying to answer some of your questions. So we could go through that, or, I don't know if you have any specific questions, but really it's been referred to the county has their comments, no concerns. The planning board had their concerns, they wrote them up, they discussed them May 21st, so now it's just a matter of closing the public hearing and making a decision. Once you're comfortable with the changes we made to both the guidelines and the local law. So I don't know if you'd like to, any questions first, and then I can go through the memo, or if you'd like me to skip the memo if you've looked at it. It has been in the agenda a couple times, so I don't wanna bore you.
Too late.
But I can make this really fascinating.
That was okay.
I know, I set you
That
up.
was a softball right in the middle.
But you didn't.
Do you wanna
I
just
didn't
give
have
us
to.
the highlights?
Sure. So, I went through the definition section. I added 2 definitions, really eligible facilities request and tower. They're referred to in the local law, but they weren't adequately defined. We fixed that. Then we clarified what the eligible facility exemption was to make that really clear. Let's see, we added a section to establish when the town can deny an application. I know there was a concern about what powers you have, and I think this new section makes it clear that if an application, for example, is incomplete or doesn't meet your aesthetic requirements, you have the authority for those reasons to deny the application. So that kind of helps you structural, we made sure that importance of the structural integrity of the equipment was in that denial provision. So that's really clear, that came up a lot at the meeting on May 21st. We added specific height requirements for small wireless facilities. That's not new. The definition of a small wireless facility dictates how high they can be. So what we did was we took that height requirement, which is also in the definition of small wireless facility, and we put it in the body of the local law. So now it's in 2 locations, so it's very clear. We added a couple extra requirements about facilities in the public right-of-way, just kind of beefing up the aesthetic importance. So I think those kind of touch upon issues you discussed at that May 21st meeting. So these requirements should address your concerns. Let's see. Oh, we eliminated the bond requirement for small wireless facility. It was discussed that it was unclear, it's not common in these small wireless local laws. I know it's new, municipalities are all trying to wrap their head about the best way to adopt these laws. It's not something you see all the time. So we did eliminate it. And then we just beefed up the guidelines a little bit. So there's extra images.
Why not keep that in, and in the event that it becomes an issue and it's challenged, we could always decide whether or not we have the standing and the ability to enforce it. Well, standing is not the right term, but whether or not we can enforce it.
Yeah, I mean, that's an option. We took it out because we were concerned that it didn't meet the reasonable fee requirements. So you're asking them to make an additional, I know it's a bond, it's not a payment. Right, but there's some.
So if they damage something, who's on the hook? We have to sue them.
They get it back if they don't.
It could possibly be interpreted that it violates the FCC's regulations about reasonable fees. They're very, it's not clear yet.
Well, I don't know, listen, you certainly know the law in this area far more than we do, but if it's a bond, what precedent says that's a fee?
You're not supposed to have them pay additional expense. There's questions about whether escrow payments are acceptable, which we put those in the law. We have those in the law for every single application that we have someone come to the town for, special permit, site plan. So we believe we can support the escrow fees, for example. But there's just some question as to whether a bond would be challenged.
We require other people to put up a bond.
Under other circumstances, and it's still there for the regular non-small cell facilities. It's just we took it out for the small cell facilities. It's supposed to be a faster process, right, than the special use permit. You're supposed to be the birds are supposed
But
to
a bond, Jeremy, I'd rather
So-
leave it in, and if
We can
it's
leave it in.
challenged, we can always worry about it then.
I think we leave it in, and if it turns out that we see that it's failing in other localities, municipalities, because I'm sure we're not going to be on the forefront of this technology, everyone rushing to Newcastle, we can always amend it later. I think it's probably easier to put it in now and remove if necessary than to later add it and go through the process again.
Yeah, we can absolutely add it back in. That's an easy fix. Like I said, I've been back and forth on it. It was in, it was out, it was in, it was out. I'll put it back in and
Put it back
Yeah,
in.
put back in.
it's not really like I said, this is something that's we have to monitor and see how it goes. It wasn't a common element in other small wireless facilities, but we're in Newcastle,
Works, it works, it
Yeah.
doesn't, we'll have to deal with it at the time.
Newcastle.
Yes, this is true,
Beat
we
a
are
broken drum.
Newcastle, we are Newcastle.
Yeah.
I was concerned, I might have totally just missed it, but given the amount of time and expense we are taking and spending for our new sidewalks
It's
that
in
we're
there.
doing.
You're talking about decorative light poles. I absolutely put that in.
Yes,
It's
and
the
also that they
second
don't,
one here. Page 3.
decide to just add new poles. And I mean, I know we said where they're allowed to put them in terms of in between buildings, things like that, but I wouldn't want them to then just decide they're putting a pole here and it's somehow not what we wanted.
Yeah, that should be, we talk about alignment.
Missed it. I didn't see
we
it.
talk
Where-
about-
No, it's not an alignment issue.
No, you're referring to.
We have the alignment where like they can put it in between buildings, things like that.
Yes, and that's in the guidelines, and then in the
Right.
law, I added another part about the separation and where they're supposed to go. So I think that touches your issue a little bit.
A little bit, but that's not.
And then we have the double pole regulation as well,
Mhm.
which again touches a little bit.
Yeah.
But what are you?
A little bit. Well, I wanted the decorative, which I might have just missed. I
It's
didn't
up
see
page
that.
3, the second bullet point.
Okay, but I was more concerned that if there is, unless there is absolutely no other place they can put it, they shouldn't be putting in any poles.
So
They, like, cause then that's ripping up our new sidewalks to put in new poles. My thought was, that should only be if there's absolutely no other place to put it,
What if
so
they're-
they
what if
have
they're
to
fluted?
show.
even if they're fluted.
We have to show, we have a locational priority list, and the priorities require them to co-locate first and foremost on existing structures. Then at the bottom of the list is installing new poles. But you can't tell them outright that they can't do it. It's discouraged and we want them to co-locate, but if co-location's not going to meet their service needs, then we can't tell them no.
And this is why we want a bond too,
Right, but can it be
if they're
stronger
gonna
than
destroy
our
property.
preference? Can it
Well,
be
they have to, what they have to do in their
Well, so
application.
you must put it on unless there is no other place to put it.
Correct, they have to demonstrate why they can't co-locate. That's the first thing they have to do in their
And we
application.
can deny it?
We can't deny it. If they
Right.
can show us that co-location doesn't work for them, then they can show us
But
what
what's
other
the
location.
threshold?
It's their
Like, we prefer it to be here, or
Yes.
there's absolutely, well, that to me is not
but that's all we can
a
do.
threshold.
That's all we can do. We can't prohibit them from putting in a new pole if co-location's not an option based on what their service needs are.
But it's not an option based on their preference?
No, based on their
it can't work, that's what I'm saying, you said it's,
right. They have to
I just asked that
demonstrate.
and you said they can say it's their preference, they don't want
No,
it
they have to
there.
demonstrate that it can't work. They have to go through our priority list and demonstrate that it can't work. Co-location can't work for them based on their service needs.
Mhm.
So it's not so much just a preference, and we can encourage them to co-locate. They could come in with a new pool proposal and say, hey, there's an existing pool right here. Can that work for you guys? Can you reach your service area going on this pole? And they can demonstrate to the board why that's not feasible for them.
And if they can't demonstrate that, then we can deny it?
Yes, because you could say that location is feasible for you. We're telling you to go there, and you're not going to go there. We're going to deny that.
Okay,
That's okay.
okay. And what about the thing with the benches?
The stealth thing that you're
Yeah.
talking about. So that's an option for them. We can't. One, that type of ground mounted equipment in the applications I've seen is not very common to stealth it into benches. Two, we can't force them to do that again if it's not feasible for them. So we can encourage
Right,
it,
but I
and the
didn't
law.
see that in the preferences.
No, so the law requires them to do stealthing and concealment. And so they can conceal it as one option might be a mailbox, one option might be a bench. But we can't put that in here,
But
that's,
Give that statue of a
I've
lady.
seen them and they're hideous, nothing's concealed. They're big giant squares on the poles.
that's,
So I don't know what law they're following that's requiring them to conceal. Is sticking it in a box on a pole concealment?
depends on the law.
'Cause
In our
that's
case,
different.
no, they're gonna have to show us their stealthing and their concealment, and we say that's not, what else can you do? We want you to do more. And this law is a tool to push them to provide the best application they can for our municipality.
Okay.
So I think they have to work within our law to produce a product that we're going to be happy with that also meets their needs. But we are limited. by what we can do, because the law doesn't allow us to really say no unless there are specific reasons.
Right, okay, I'm just inclined to push the envelope as much as possible for aesthetic reasons, because our town's gonna look great after all this is finally done.
Right.
So I'm inclined to go as far as we possibly can, and if we get a pushback, we get a pushback, but I'd rather not give it to them at the beginning.
Totally understand, and I think between the guidelines and this law, we really have pushed the envelope as far as we think is legally acceptable under the regulations that'll protect the town and produce, applications that are aesthetically not unpleasing. I can't say pleasing because it's still, a thing on a pole, but that's kind of the way it is. Plus, the technology is changing rapidly, and even providers, when we've consulted with them, are not sure what they're going to be putting forth in their next applications, because it's so different and it depends on the area. And when you look at pictures, you'll see like horror stories, but when you look, I've seen actual applications submitted to municipalities, and those horror stories, that's not what I'm seeing. And granted, my experience is limited and this is very new, but I think we want to make sure, and our guidelines are something we can change without going through the local law process, and we can be more specific with those, especially, as we're figuring out what this technology is going to look like. But I think the law really gives us a good starting point. And if we realize that there are things that we want to strengthen, or we come across, a better provision, or the FCC loses and, drops some of their restrictions, we can go back and we can, change this a little bit if we want to. Maybe it's, great even under the FCC's rules.
Have any of the sort of local surrounding municipalities been approached by any of the 5G wireless providers yet about doing something in their town?
From my experience in the municipalities we represent in Westchester, no, not for small cells. Eligible facilities requests are happening all the time without you even realizing. More so in Dutchess County, I've seen applications in LaGrange, in Beacon, so more so up there than. But again, I'm just in the municipalities I represent. I'm not really so sure about the others.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think it's good. I think
But
you
you're
did,
gonna put
I think
the-
you
you're
did
gonna
a
put the bond-
tremendous
I'm gonna
job
put the
on this.
bond back in. The bond back in. We'll see how that works.
So we're gonna close it, should we leave it open for public comments till,
Yes.
Yeah.
what
Why don't
day?
we see if anybody has comments?
Any comments?
Who's gonna comment?
Who's gonna comment? There's a guy with glasses and a blue blazer, but I'm not gonna say his name.
He does public comment, not the hearings. So when are we gonna leave it open till,
Might as well until next week when we vote on the 16th. So
Yeah,
for
so
one week,
we really
put it back on
can
the
keep it on,
the
let's
12th?
keep it open till the 12th, yep.
Good.
And then we'll vote on it on the 16th.
Okay.
With the
Motion.
bond in it, the one in the agenda on the 16th will have the bond.
Okay,
Right,
so
and we're gonna keep this open till noon on the 12th.
Okay, so motion to close the public hearing, but we're gonna keep it open for written comments until
12th.
July 12th
At 12
at
o'clock.
12 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Audrey did great. Motion for everybody to clap.
With the
Second. I abstain.
Jill, with the guidelines, we'll make sure those are on to get adopted by the board as well for July 16th.
Yes.
Okay.
Alright, Dad, give her a raise. Okay. Okay,
Let's not be a treasure.
we move on.
It was good work, but it was on par with what
Yeah,
we expect from you, Drew. You got this.
Excellent.
Okay, no, we
Next.
weren't taking that. I thought
Okay,
the raise was a bad comment.
we're gonna open the public hearing, right?
So, okay, so we're gonna open our public hearing to, wetlands, and local law to amend chapter 137 of the code of the town of Newcastle concerning wetlands. Do we have a motion?
I move to open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright, who's handling this one?
It's
Sure. So the law is a couple pages, as you can see, but really that's just because they changed wetland coordinator into environmental coordinator, because we don't have a wetland coordinator. So the changes, which I have marked are really only in section,
The definition.
in section
One,
Uh,
7.2.
G2, we added G, H, and I,
Bingo.
just to, help, help beef up the section and, clarify a couple points at the recommendation of, was it Steve Coleman,
Yeah,
Jill?
Steve Coleman.
At the recommendation of Steve Coleman, right before he retired.
Had to do with the size of the text.
The sheds.
Yeah, the shed, that was,
Remember?
we had a conversation about the sheds, what was the reasonable size?
Can I just ask,
Sure.
why did the environmental coordinator have to approve repairing an existing septic system? If you're not expanding it,
I assume so it doesn't leak and it's done the right
I
way,
think
no?
it failed.
Usually
no,
repairing an
but it's,
existing septic
it's,
system is.
yeah, it's repairing it, I mean, usually they make sure it doesn't leak, I don't think he has the
Like, I guess like any,
machinery to study
that's true, like
that.
anything else, you have a building inspector before you get your C of O and make sure that you've done it up to code.
Sometimes
Wait.
to repair, if they put new fields in, you'll take the trees down.
I
So
think that's
you
why.
have to get a permit to repair your
No.
septic system?
But
But it
in
says,
terms of what Steve or somebody in that role might do, you know, I think, I'm speculating a little bit, but I know of situations where they had to put in new fields and, you know, you need to.
but this isn't saying new fields.
Yeah, but that's what a repair would be.
No, I had mine repaired, I know
And
people
what
have
did
had
you-
it repaired, cause there could be a crack and or there could be something, you don't have to do a whole new field.
Did you get a permit?
Okay, well, you don't have,
Yes.
I'm gonna have to talk to Steve Coleman's replacement.
No, I'm just curious, like
Can
I
you
know
press rewind?
people have had issues with it, or it's somebody's pumping it and let's say they hit something and they have to replace something.
We can speak to staff and get an answer on that.
Yeah, I'm just
Sure.
curious, cause I totally get if you have to move a field, that's a big deal and it can affect wetlands and everything else. But if you're just making a repair, I'm not sure
Rob, I think
that
that-
this doesn't need to be,
Septic.
right, it
Yeah,
says
but
existing
Disturbance.
septic system.
Isn't
If
it
you have an
the,
existing
Bring me
septic
down.
leach field disturbance, maybe that requires.
but I think it's only if it's in a wetland or a wetland buffer, right?
That's unclear.
But that's not clear, it doesn't say that.
Well, cause
Yeah,
I
but you're
think
only
you have
in the
to,
wet-
you're only looking at the one section, I think
Right,
if you
have to
look at the
incorporate,
whole,
right.
the whole law.
section.
Yeah, you're in the
Yeah.
wetland section. So if you're making a repair to your septic that happens to be in a wetland,
You're disturbing.
Bringing
you're
you to wetland
disturbing the
section,
wetland.
right.
Uh-huh,
So you need a wetland permit to do any type of work in the wetland, including repair work to your septic. So this was to clarify that,
And the buffer too.
in the buffer too. And that's all, if you start from the beginning of the law and
I
you read the whole thing.
yeah, I still just wanna confirm that that's just incorporating exactly what they meant.
Okay. Yeah, but it's all,
That
yeah.
that didn't
So
have to
we're-
be tightened.
We're just keeping this open.
Right, but yours isn't in a wetland.
Yeah, let's keep it
Yeah, so if
open.
yours
Mine's not in a
If yours
wetland.
isn't in a
But
wetland,
I'm
this
didn't
doesn't
have to
apply to
do
It
you.
doesn't, I'm not talking about me, I'm saying that I wanna make sure it doesn't need to
You might
be.
be, so we wanna make sure that
Everything I have is in a wetland.
I just wanna make sure it's not about me,
Understood.
that this
Right.
is not, I mean, I know plenty of people who have had an issue because they get it pumped and the guy,
Do
they're
they
not
live in
using it great.
wetlands?
Yes, but it's only if it's in a wetland that it's an issue.
It is about you now.
Let's
I want
just
to make sure
recognize
that
that.
it
Let's
doesn't
just- I got
I'm
it.
asking for a friend.
I
LIS.
understand, west of 134 is in a wetland.
I got it. I got it,
That's
I.
LISAKATZ.
You know, I find you more and more annoying every year I know you.
Lisa, we understand.
I told you,
We'll
Miss
work it.
Stephanie.
Okay. Are there any
Well, no
other
part of it.
clarifications anyone would like on the wetlands law?
No.
So why
You have
don't
a
we
right to
adjourn
counsel,
it
Lisa,
until the
you should invoke it.
16th, okay?
Yes,
Okay.
that's okay,
So
thank you, Jill,
moved.
yes.
Second.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, next public hearing, a local law to amend chapter 60, section 210 of the code of the town of Newcastle.
This is exciting.
Providing a definition of fence or wall height.
This is what we do.
So this came up because Tom received an application for a fence, it was on a hill, it was unclear about what the height was of the fence.
Where do you measure it from, like?
Yes.
Yes,
Are you
exactly.
kidding me?
Nope.
So, how thick is
No.
that? That means.
What are you talking about? This is the fence. I mean, really?
Not from like where the fence starts, where the pole is.
No, it's the height of the friggin' fence. You take a thing from the ground to the top. What are you talking about?
The ground
Yeah,
might
we-
be.
I
Who
We
is
did.
questioning this?
Yeah, I said.
No, but let's say, let's say you got a
No,
pole
just did it again.
and it's stepped, the fence, so like it's a foot from the bottom of the fence is a foot from the ground. Do you measure from the top, from the bottom of the fence, or you measure from the ground?
It's a great question.
That's the point. Some of these fences are stepped.
I lost a
I
lot of sleep
understand, you're
over
gonna have a gap and then the thing goes like this. You go from the
What do
highest
most
point up to the
municipalities
top.
do?
So most municipalities have some sort of height definition for a fence. In fact,
For a steep slope.
no, just a general
Right, a general
definition.
definition.
Isn't
Yes.
the big issue, irrespective of where it starts, more where it ends?
I mean, this is like kinda
No, but you gotta know where
insane
to start
that
the
somebody's
measurement.
debating
No,
this and
no matter what,
and
we're gonna
common
start here.
sense
It wasn't
self-prevail.
debated, it was a question and it made
Doesn't matter.
Who
this
brings the
definition.
question?
Oh my God, who cares? Let's just adopt it. We're
Yeah,
I mean,
setting what the measurement is. It doesn't matter who had a question about it. We're setting what the measurement
I
is.
mean,
Okay, but
If
what's the
anyone has a problem
So
with
what's
the
the answer?
measurement, speak
What's
What's the
now.
answer? What's the answer?
Well, we put together this
tell me.
type definition for fence to make sure that it's more clear going forward
Right.
about how you measure fence. I think most importantly, we also state that if your fence is on top of a retaining wall or some other sort of stone wall, the height of the fence is measured from the bottom of the stone wall to the top of the fence. And that wasn't necessarily clear without the type of definition. So going forward, you're gonna see it just helps clarify any issues
Exactly.
going forward, makes enforcement a little bit easier.
So you
That was
wanna
it.
read the definition if you?
I will read the definition.
should.
The vertical distance between height, fence or wall. The vertical
I'll build that
distance
wall.
between the natural existing grade of the property at the base of the fence or wall prior to regrading and the highest horizontal member at the top.
Whoa, prior to regrading?
Prior to regrading.
That doesn't make any sense either. So you are going in, you're doing construction, you're installing a fence, the final grade is gonna be for whatever reason, you put in a small retaining wall because you've needed to, because you're up against something else, you've created a berm and then, you know, the berm is in consent with
I
your
learned
need,
berm
that makes no,
Because of
I do not get that.
I think what they want to avoid is for you creating a
You
6-foot
build a
wall.
wall.
I
Put the
understand,
fence
but
on top of
if
your
the
wall.
plans have been approved by
I'm
the
with you.
planning board and the
Well, then they would have a
zoning
variance
boards-
from this, but the
they would
point
have
is
approved
that
plans, so prior to grading, I understand they don't want people to go in and move dirt around and create artificial heights where heights don't
Right.
exist, that I get.
well, that's what this is trying to prevent.
But I think it's also creating,
You can go in for a variance.
yeah, has it?
I think
The
you
planning board
do it
had-
to begin with, if you knew
Yeah.
that it was gonna be.
Yeah, the planning board reviewed it, they put together a couple comments.
Well, they want to make it even stronger.
Stronger, yeah, they want
I
to
think
more
it's, I
complicated.
think it's just like nuts, but okay.
Which side of retaining wall, maximum height, the front or the back?
There's a little more to the definition, so I'm
Yes.
just
Yes.
gonna keep reading. In the case of picket fences, wrought iron fences with decorative elements, fences made of vertical boards with rounded ends or other structures of similar design, the top of the fence shall be aligned parallel to the top of the highest point of such decorative element. In the case of a fence located on a wall, berm, retaining wall, or similar structure, the height of the fence shall include the height of the wall, berm, or retaining wall.
Right. That makes sense.
So that's like the little knobs at the top of the fence, they still count within the
Right,
fence height.
that's the height, of course.
Okay.
Alright.
Okay, good, so should we kick it over with we'll leave written comments open? Did we incorporate the planning board's comments?
The planning board wanted, you know, first they wanted to, their first comment says that the legislation should include diagrams and elevations showing various examples to help explain calculation of height requirements. I don't have any drawing skills,
I'll
so
do the drawings.
I can't,
Got that.
I can't do
Kick
the
it back
drawings.
to them, they can draw it. They've got the skills.
Great, this is
clear.
I like that.
Or what's another comment, just?
They wanna reference the various other municipal code sections that are noted as references in the definition. That's not something we usually do. I looked at various municipal definitions to put together this definition and spoke with Tom DePole, the building inspector, to put this together, so I don't think that's necessary. And then the legislation should be clarified to identify from which side of the retaining wall the maximum permitted height of 6 feet would be measured, front side or back side. There is specific concern regarding the height of the fence in relation to the height of a berm or retaining wall, And then the last comment was the legislation should be clarified in regard to discussion of the relationship of the parallel line when referencing two high points on the fence. As it is written, it is unclear as to what is intended.
Bob's gotta get out.
I just think this is,
Tom, here's Tom, here's Tom.
cannot believe it.
Alright, so
I
we're
feel
not
like
gonna,
I'm okay with it.
we don't need
Yeah,
to
this
close.
is like, it's a.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't
They
we
like it.
Oh, here we go.
leave it open?
Leave it
Probably
open.
Same exact thing, motion to close the hearing, we'll leave it open till
Moved.
July 12th
At 12
at
p.m.
12 p.m. for written comments.
Second.
Yes,
I have a
unless
moved and
anyone in the
second.
audience has a
All in
comment.
favor? Any comments? No, sorry, I forgot that.
Martin, we are solving the issues of the world right now.
I understand, we're on the fence about this.
Oh, we needed Nick for that one.
Okay, we have to set a public
Keeping
hearing.
out, we're keeping out
The
Pleasantville, they're
King
not coming.
Greeley Sewer District Extension. Do we have a date for that?
I don't know.
Yeah, is that in their resolutions
I
or
think
no?
it's in the resolution.
Alright, so we just wait for that?
So now we're for public
Yeah.
comment and business?
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
public
let's
comment, new business, anybody? John? Oh boy,
Sorry, guys.
come on, John, it's not, so 10 to 10.
I know, well, I'll get you out of here by midnight. Okay, couple of things that I just wanted to cover. Number one, in tonight's session, for the record, is 10 to 10. What I'm going to be asking the board to do in the future is when you've got an extensive pre-hearing that's going to last more than an hour. The schedule said it was going to go from 7, your meeting would be starting, and we would be starting the public meeting at 7:30 to 8:30. And I think we've really gone past the 2-hour, 3-hour thing. So I'm gonna ask you, please, as you schedule these things, to consider, if it's a lengthy session, to put the board meeting in the middle, if you can, and then continue your other hearing, so that we can go home sometime at a reasonable time, if that's possible. Second thing I wanted to bring up, we have an enormous, I wanted to ask the board if they, and this is a little bit humorous, but it's not really. Do you know how many orange cones you've got on downtown in the?
More than one.
Yes, I think you have more than one. I was trying to count, does anybody on the board know exactly how many cones you've got?
Enough to keep
Too
people,
many.
enough to keep people safe.
It's like a guess and try.
Well, we understand that, but I guess the point that I was trying to make is if we are confused, everyone is confused in town, and it's just an encouragement to see what we can do about
I
making this
assure you, we are
reconstruction.
doing whatever we can. Jill Shapiro is doing whatever she can. Council's doing whatever he and she, whoever's working on it, can. A lot of it, unfortunately, is, I'm gonna say out of our control, but we've been pushing, and we will continue to do so.
I understand, but what,
If
in
you
the
can,
meantime,
you can
what,
arrange for no rain, we will move this
It's
project.
I-
Beyond rain, but rain as of late has been the issue, but.
completely
Yeah,
understood.
but once we
and-
pour the
and
sidewalks, we move the cones.
Yeah.
Construction is always hard, but what I'm just saying is as you go section to section you're making, it leaves the rest of the downtown area for the residents to use, and it's not inconveniencing them. And we want to encourage people still to go to the library, still to go to town hall to conduct their business,
We are
still
fully
to go to
aware.
the train.
And it's
I know you
But
are.
you do know the
Contentious-
library
contentious
construction
issue.
is not ours.
We understand that.
Okay.
But we still want people to have access to the various wonderful facilities this town offers, and we
Well,
wanna
just for
remind
everyone to
people.
know, you can still get into all the stores, it doesn't look nice, but they're all accessible.
Yes, they are.
So people
Well, there are,
should
and
not
some
come
people have brought up
downtown.
it's not accessible for some people who have, challenges with mobility, which has been brought up.
Many of the stores have opened up their
Yeah.
back entrances for people.
Nonetheless, it's not the most accommodating thing.
No,
we're working
it's
on.
difficult, and people are discouraged from
Get it
coming
done.
downtown, and they are not coming downtown. And I've talked to our local businesses, and many of them have had a profound loss in business. I know you know that better than most and almost everybody, so we do definitely want to encourage people to shop in town and to continue to shop in town, so that we can do that. Now, we've got other things that we want to encourage. One of the things that I'd like to encourage is, we've got this wonderful facility for concerts and performances, and I'd like to make sure that we're utilizing it. Summer's come, we don't really have any concerts, I don't think, scheduled this summer, except as rain venues for the Performing Arts Center. We'd like to do whatever we can to make sure that the Performing Arts Center is a wonderful draw for the community, and I know if somebody will follow me who will be talking about certain areas, Chappaqua Crossing, we want to encourage the use of all of our facilities for this, so I very much appreciate it. So I thank you very much for your time and your effort, and but really, let's do whatever we can to keep this town together while you're making it better.
Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Okay, our resolutions.
I see Seth.
I move to approve the payment of claims in the amount of $912,320.16 listed in the summary pre-check writing report and detail voucher detail report, each prepared on June 25th of this year. Checks will be issued and mailed to each claimant listed on Wednesday, June 26, 2019.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I move to award a bid of contract for the following as reflected below. These prices have been bid by the vendors to cover a one-year period from the time of the award, June 2019 through June 2020, with the possibility of a one-year extension.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to appoint Lieutenant James Carroll on a provisional basis to the position of police chief effective June 28, 2019 at the annual salary of $157,500.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to authorize the town supervisor to execute a 2019 interagency agreement with Northeast Westchester Special Recreation, Inc., along with neighboring municipalities. This agreement provides a collective program of therapeutic recreation services for individuals with disabilities residing or domiciled in our area. For 2019, the town of Newcastle's municipal match contribution is $13,810.53 to provide these services to 35 Newcastle residents. This annual contribution is distributable and payable as outlined in the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to reappoint Mary Lynn McCree to the Beautification Advisory Board effective February 15, 2019 for a 3-year term to expire February 12, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I move to reappoint the following members to the Diversity and Inclusion Committee effective July 17, 2019 for a 1-year term to expire July 16, 2020. Dawn Danka Rosen, Ed Frank, Sophia Chaudhry, Swapna Ramaswamy, Natalia Wixom, Elizabeth Fiegelson, and Cheryl Manass.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I move to reappoint the following members to the Community Preparedness Committee effective July 17, 2019 for a 1-year term to expire July 16, 2020. Rick Stein, Nancy Stein, Suzanne Kavik, and Christian Edstrom.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain since it's like.
I move
That's one thing we do.
I move to reappoint the following members to the Chaplain Committee effective July 17, 2019 for a 1-year term to expire July 16, 2020. Stuart Bieber, Peter Izzo, Jack Mortel, Daniel Google.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to appoint RJ Impastato to the Chaplain Committee effective July 17th of this year for a 2-year term to expire July 16th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Why don't I take
Aye.
the next one?
By all means, go ahead.
Okay. This is a resolution authorizing a renewal or extension of temporary certificates of occupancy for the Chappaqua Crossing project due to some unforeseen circumstances related to a county installed piping. There's been a delay. So now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby reaffirms its continuing role as lead agency pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Be it further resolved that based upon a review.
Hold on, you're,
I'm not
She
reading
just
all the
skipped over
whereases.
clauses.
Yeah, but we're talking about Chapel Crossing or we're talking about?
Chapel Cross.
Yeah, where's the?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with the county installed pipe?
Yeah,
Oh, because it's been delayed because
On one
That on the road, one
down the road, they
on
can't.
117.
That's a county installed pipe?
No, it was actually the kind of.
Yeah.
it's different,
Yeah.
right, cause you're
Sorry.
confusing
Yeah,
your
we're
two.
talking about.
Yes.
Like
Oh.
consolidated.
Chapel Crossing Conifer, I got them confused.
Yes.
Right, sorry, that's what I was.
That's
Thank
why
you.
it's
Yes.
right.
Okay.
That's the pipe issue.
Now that based upon, be it further resolved that based upon our review of the environmental assessment form dated June 24th, 2019, the aforementioned documents and consideration of the proceedings had herein and for the reasons set forth in the attached negative declaration, the town board hereby determines that granting the applicant's request for the extension of the temporary certificate of occupancies which was previously authorized to be issued prior to the completion of the approved T intersection improvements would not have a significant adverse impact. Be it further resolved that the town board of the town of Newcastle hereby modifies the paragraph contained in the town board's December 13th, 2018 resolution and incorporated in its January 29th, 2019 and April 30th, 2019 resolutions that no temporary certificate of occupancy shall be issued, renewed or extended beyond 6 months from the date of the filing of this resolution to read as follows. Be it further resolved that notwithstanding the temporary relief granted herein, no temporary certificate of occupancy shall be issued, renewed, or extended beyond December 12th, 2019. Oh my god. Be it further resolved. Do I have to read all of this?
Yes.
That A, no temporary certificate of occupancy for additional retail uses in Chapel Crossings project shall be issued, and B, condition number 14th of the town board's December 13th, 2018 resolution shall remain in effect until such time as 1, the applicant provides a letter to the Commissioner of Public Works and the town engineer certifying that all work required by the New York State DOT work permit and the approved plans have been completed and that no further road construction is required, and all that remains is administrative work to close out the New York State DOT work permits. And 2, the town commissioner of public works and the town engineer agree in writing that, to the best of their knowledge and understanding, the Roaring Brook Road, Route 117 intersection improvements have been completed, and that all the work required by the New York State DOT work permit and the approved plans have been completed, and that no further road construction is required, and all that remains is administrative work to close out the New York State work permits. And be it further resolved that the applicant will provide a written report to the town board and planning board by July 25th, 2019, and appear at the town board's July 30th, 2019 meeting, and if requested, a planning board meeting to advise as to its compliance with conditions number 15 and number 20 of the town board's December 13th, 2018 resolution concerning the Annandale Trail and Route 117 Ripple Road site improvements. Be it further resolved that except as otherwise expressly amended herein, all other terms, provisions, and conditions of the town board's resolution dated December 13th, 2018, January 29th, 2019, and April 30th, 2019 are incorporated herein by reference, shall remain in full force and effect and be applicable to the implementation and operation of the interim MPT plans referenced therein. Be it further resolved that if said conditions be not fully complied with, this resolution shall become null and void. Be it further resolved that all review fees incurred in connection with the applicant's request addressed herein and to the planning board shall be reimbursed by a date to the satisfaction of the town controller, but in no event no later than prior to the issuance of the final certificate of occupancy. Be it further resolved that certified copies of this resolution shall be transmitted to the Town of Newcastle Planning Board Department and to the applicant, and a copy of this resolution shall be filed in the office of the town clerk. Be it further resolved that the town staff, consultants, and attorneys are authorized to take all steps necessary to implement this resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I move to set a public hearing regarding a local law to amend Chapter 73, Section 4, and Chapter 123, Article 2, Section 5 of the Town Code concerning Joan Corwin Way. No, did we do this already?
Yep, it should be to adopt the local law.
Yes.
It was closed, written comment was closed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's ready.
I'm sorry, the
I
heading
move
is
to
right.
adopt a local law to amend Chapter 73, Section 4, and Chapter 123, Article 2, Section 5 of the Town Code concerning Joan Corwin Way.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
We're doing this, right? Do we have any changes to make to this one?
Yes,
We do.
So can we,
handwrote them.
Okay, whereas the town board desires to extend the lease agreement dated April 1st with Chappaqua Station for the Chappaqua Train Station building located at 108 Allen Place in Chappaqua. Whereas the lease term will be extended from June 30th, 2025 until June 30th, 2029 with a 3% annual increase in rent with the exception of a 10% increase from year 6 to year 7, with an option to renew for an additional 5 years with a 3% annual increase in rent. Whereas Chappaqua Station agrees to install a fire alarm with a dialer so that it can be monitored by Central Station at the premises within 45 days of executing the extension of the lease. Whereas the town consents to the assignment and assumption of the lease from Chappaqua Station to Bobo's Cafe Chappaqua LLC, pursuant to the terms and conditions of the consent to assignment and assumption of lease. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board hereby approves extending lease with Chappaqua Station until June 30th, 2029, and be it further resolved, the town board consents to the assignment of the lease from Chappaqua Station to Bobo's Cafe Chappaqua LLC, or an entity to be formed by the ownership of Bobo's Cafe, provided that the incoming tenant provides the town with a personal guarantee with a good guy clause with a 6-month notice provision from a suitable and creditworthy individuals acceptable to the town in its sole discretion. And be it further resolved, the town supervisor or the town administrator are authorized to execute the extension of lease and the consent to the assignment in the forms and substances to the satisfaction of the town attorney.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to authorize the purchase of equipment services for repairs to the Peterson 4700 horizontal grinder from Stronghold Industries at an estimated cost, I assume that's $14,200.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
We really got a good rate.
Yeah, 14. I move to accept the retirement
So
of
macho,
Janice
that one.
Friend, Secretary to the Planning Board, effective July 8th of 2019. The town would like to thank her for 25 years of service. That's a long
Yes.
time.
thank you Janice, second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
go ahead, take it
I
home.
move to authorize Left of Main Street to hold a Lights for Liberty Vigil at the gazebo on Friday, July 12th of this year from 7 to 9:30 p.m.
Second, you want me to
All in
read them?
Aye.
Thank you. I know, there must be, I think you're kind of stuffy.
Can you read my script?
I move to authorize, this is a resolution regarding the multi-use trailway, which is known as the chat line. I move to authorize the acceptance, is there something else?
Yeah, one more, it's okay, keep
I move to authorize the acceptance of the bid for the proposed multi-use pedestrian trailway feasibility study, tasks 1 through 6 is outlined in the RFP by Barton and Loguidici in their letter dated June 25th, 2019 for a revised fee of $104,100. This fee is to be paid for from the $1.5 million trust fund established by Summit Greenfield.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is a resolution about rejecting a bid that we received to build the basketball court. Whereas the town issued an invitation for bids to construct the proposed basketball court, and whereas the town received one response by Peter J. Londy Inc. to the town invitation with a base bid of $920,000, and whereas the town has been advised by its consultants that the single bid response is higher than expected, now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby rejects and authorizes the invitation to bid to be reissued. Rejects the bid of Peter J. Londy Inc. and authorizes the invitation to bid to be reissued. Is that good?
Yeah, two different handwriting.
All in favor?
That's alright.
Aye.
I move to authorize the town to post the position of planning board secretary. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.